Are you going completely crazy scrolling through dozens of videos, forum, GitHub, Reddit, and of course Stack Overflow looking for a solution to play perfectly a video on a Raspberry Pi 4? Well, that's why I spent my last few weeks. And now, it's time for a devlog. Hello and welcome to Le Grippin, a channel dedicated to programming and electronics. And if that's not your first time here, yes, I've got a new camera. Today, we're going to have a complete overview of almost all the solutions you can use to play a video on a Raspberry Pi. Playing a video on a Raspberry Pi? I don't get it. There are so many media players. Why don't you just use VLC? Well, that's exactly what I did a few months ago when I had to build a media player for an art installation. The project is still not released, so I'm not allowed to fully explain its scope. Today, I will be showing you short code snippets that focuses on video playback. But there is a GitHub link in the description with complete program that implement these short examples. The project had to play two videos in loop and switch from one to the other depending on the status of a sensor. Please note that sound playback was not needed. So solution I will be discussing today might not work for you if that's something you need. Also, I wanted my code to be as future-proof as possible by using the latest version of the software and libraries. That includes using the Raspberry Pi OS Lite in its 64-bit version. After some research, I discovered that VLC is the recommended media player on a Pi now. Also, controlling VLC from Python that I wanted to use for the rest of the project is super easy thanks to libVLC. What is libVLC? libVLC is the core engine of VLC that you can use to create your own project based on the player. It's a C library, but there are bindings for other languages, including Python. By the way, VLC being a French program, you should call it VLC Media Player. So, I made something like this. After installing the package using pip, I can now import the Python module in my code, create a new VLC instance and media player, create special libVLC object representing my videos, and then start the player for the first time. Then, in a main loop, I was checking the status of my sensor, and depending on the results, I will swap if needed my video. Finally, to loop my video, if we are at the end of the playback, I am starting it again. Let's use a simple push button as a sensor and see what we get. Let me explain what you are thinking, since I will be using this setup for the rest of the video. Since we are talking about time-sensitive video playback, instead of pointing a camera at my screen, I am recording the HDMI output of the Pi with a professional capture card. I am overlaying the SSH terminal that I am using to control and monitor the Pi, and the push button that I am using as a simple sensor. These three videos were recorded at the same time using OBS, so you can assume they're perfectly synchronized. Well, that works. As you might have guessed, if that was the end of my story, I will not be making this video. But before going further, if perfect playback is not needed for your project, keep using VLC. Indeed, the library is easy to use and well documented, and using a modern media player will help you tremendously since so many stuff are handled for you. Also, if you want to play 4K video, VLC is the easiest way. There's also a lot of ways to customize the player to your needs. For example, if you want to add text over your video, you can use the marquee filter, the one usually used by VLC to display text on top of the video. Back to my story, the project is done, and I move on. A few months later, the client calls me again asking for some updates. Concerning video playback, which is what we are talking about today, there are two new requirements. Now there can be up to 4 videos instead of 2, and switching between the video when the sensor detects something can be configured to happen as soon as possible or exactly at the end of the previous video. Nothing really crazy, a configuration file and a state machine. But then, he mentioned that video playback was not perfect. While looping or switching between videos, there are some visible stuttering. Easy, 1 of 2 days of work. Way to die. Well, I had no idea what I was getting into. Just to make sure we are on the same page, by seamless or gapless, I mean that the video playback should be perfect when switching or looping a video. There shouldn't be any black frames or a frame being displayed longer than it should. By the way, if you're working on a project like this, before spending hours on your code, make sure your video files are indeed gapless. Don't ask me how I know. An easy way to try this is to open your files in a video editor and check that the transitions are exactly what you want. You might need to remove 1 or 2 frames at the end of the video. The first thing I tried was to improve the way I was using libVLC, hoping to get gapless playback. One of the parameters you can set using libVLC is the debug level, so I used the highest one in the hope of finding what was causing these playback issues. I found out that each time you load a video, VLC tried to find the best way to decode and display it. A process that obviously takes some time. And by some time, I mean a few milliseconds. But if you want a perfect playback, there should always be the same delay between your frames. 33 milliseconds for a 30 FPS file. So even a 20 milliseconds delay, which is not that much, is enough to cause a visible stutter. So I tried tweaking many parameters. For example, I started manually setting some video playback options that are automatically discovered usually, like the video codec or looking up for subtitles. Also, I disabled some features that I was not using, like sound. I also tried tweaking the different buffer or cache parameters, but still no major improvements. Finally, I found an option called input repeat to loop almost perfectly a single video file. You're supposed to set the value to -1 to get an infinite loop. But that's currently not working, at least on the Python version. Just use a very big number and loop it manually if it ever stops. I can live with the playback not being gapless once every few months. But since playback is now never stops, I lost the ability to check if a video was ended to switch to another one, which was something I needed for my project. Once again, if your project is very simple, that might be the way to go. Then, I spent some time on the Raspberry Pi forum looking at hardware video decoding. I learned that on a Pi 4, a video using H.265 can be decoded directly using the GPU. Indeed, performance improved a bit, and now I was able to play 4K video, which was not the case before. Talking about H.265, I also tried tweaking the parameter I was using to encode the video. I was thinking that maybe reducing the file size might improve the loading speed, and I found out some parameters, including one named fast decode. But still, I did not get a smooth transition. Finally, after a slow descent into madness, I went as deep as possible by reading directly the libVLC C source code, where I discovered this. When switching videos, and no matter what I did in my code, VLC will always release the previous video, then load and buffer the new one, so it's impossible to get gapless playback. Even on a way more powerful computer than a Pi, you will not get perfect transition between two videos using VLC. To confirm that hypothesis, I tried to run the code on my laptop and got the same playback problems. It definitely proved me that I needed to use something else than VLC. Let's look for a better solution. A few years ago, I used a tool developed by Adafruit called Pi Video Looper. It does exactly what the name implies, play videos in loop on a Raspberry Pi. The software is open source, as always with Adafruit, so I went to have a look at how they built it. Pi Video Looper can be used with two different video media players. OMX Player, a now obsolete software that was based on the old graphic drivers. Before being replaced by VLC, it was the go-to media player on the Raspberry Pi, and it offered almost gapless video playback. The second option is to use Hello Video, a very rough media player that only accepts certain types of video files. It was created by the Raspberry Pi Foundation in 2012. The year when the first Raspberry Pi was released. Originally, it was just an example code, explaining how to decode and display a video using the video drivers in C. With a small change, it can play perfectly a video in loop. I even found on the Raspberry Pi forum a post dating back from 2012 with what seems to be the source from this small tweak. The reason why this trick works and gives us a perfect playback is that the player only sticks back to the beginning of the file, whereas VLC will close and open the file again. Since most of these players are using the old video drivers, Pi Video Looper only works on the legacy version of the OS. Actually, there's an open pull request on the GitHub to add VLC as a third player option to make the player compatible with Bullseye, the latest version of the OS when I'm recording this video. Many open source projects I found on GitHub are based on one of these two solutions, especially the Hello Video one, while more modern ones are using VLC with the input repeat option. For my project, Hello Video could have been a solution, but first, it will mean going back to the legacy version of the OS. Second, asking my client to convert all his video files to this weird video format, even if I could use a script to convert the video automatically. Finally, and most importantly for my project, Hello Video is a C program made to play in loop one single video. My code is in Python and I need to know the playback state. So knowing when the video is over to switch to another one would have been a very big mess. Is the playback ended, or do I properly switch from one video to the other? I even thought at some point to mash all the video in one big single file and stick in it at different points. That would have been very chaotic. So let's go deeper. You cannot talk about videos and programming without mentioning our Lord and Savior, FFmpeg. What is FFmpeg? FFmpeg is an open source command line tool dedicated to multimedia content handling. You can use it to convert, encode, or transform a lot of multimedia content. Let's just say that you are probably using it every day. YouTube, TikTok, OBS, Chrome, iTunes all use FFmpeg at some point. Oh, and of course, VLC also uses FFmpeg. To be more precise, libAveCodec, which is part of the FFmpeg project. And FFmpeg being a French project, you should now call it FFmpeg. So, of course, I thought about using FFmpeg for my project. But first, FFmpeg is mostly made to decode or transform a video, not to play it. But it could help me decode them. To play a video, there is FFplay, another command line tool, part of the FFmpeg package. But knowing its playback status for my Python script would have raised the same problem that we just discussed about Hello Video. Still, if you know in advance which files you need to play, you can use the concat filter and a list in a text file, and you will get a seamless switching, but not looping. I did find some weird solution that could have worked that were using both FFmpeg to create an infinite streaming loop and FFplay to play it, and linking the two of them using a local network port or using a shell command pipe. But they look like witchcraft. Anyway, I'm very far from being an FFmpeg expert, but using a command line tool from a Python script did not feel like an efficient solution. But if you're an FFmpeg expert, first, why are you watching this video? And there was an easy solution, please tell me in the comments down below. So, after trying all these ideas without success, and I am not talking about all of them, I needed a solution to, first, decode efficiently my videos using FFmpeg if possible, spend as little time as possible opening, closing, or parsing my files, and third, know when a video was done playing to quickly rewind it or switch to another file. Think outside the box. Can you name another Python library used to manipulate images? Yes, OpenCV. What is OpenCV? Okay, definition time again. OpenCV is an open source library dedicated to computer vision, hence the CV. It's used a lot for real-time image analysis, think artificial intelligence, or image modification, think augmented reality, for example. Now you might be wondering, why is he talking about images? That's a video about video playback. Yes, but a video is just a lot of images that are displayed one after the other. OpenCV allows you to read a video frame by frame by using a method called video capture. And before you ask, yes, OpenCV does use FFmpeg for that. I cannot see a better way to know where we are in the playback than reading a video frame by frame. More time on Stack Overflow, and I learned how to load and store a video in a NumPy array. What is NumPy? What is NumPy? NumPy is a Python module used to work with numerical values in Python. It is used for statistics, algebra, and machine learning. But a lot of other libraries that needs to efficiently manipulate a lot of numbers, like for example in image processing, will use it. That's why it's used by OpenCV. Using OpenCV, you can get basic information about your video files, their resolution, their length, and their frame rate. And from this information, you can create a NumPy array of the right size and shape to completely store your video. Wait, you want to completely decode and load videos in RAM before playing them? Yes, I do. I never said my solution was going to be clean. But that does solve our problem. In exchange of a small loading time at the beginning of our script, our videos are now ready to be played from RAM. We don't have to work with the files anymore. We don't have to open, close, or decode them. They are ready to be played directly from memory, and video playback should now be very fast. More on that later. Okay, our videos are now ready to be displayed. The usual way to display an image using OpenCV is the emShow method for image show, but it requires a complete desktop environment. That's not going to work for me. And that's when I found my savior on Stack Overflow. Someone successfully used the Linux frame buffer to display a video from a Python script. The frame buff what? There's a special file on Linux system located in dev.fb0 where you can write raw pixels to be displayed instantly on screen. Since that's a file, using the frame buffer from Python is as easy as writing in any text file. The code I found on Stack Overflow even used the memmap function from the NumPy package to handle the frame buffer. What is memmap? Memmap, that you might know as mmap in C, is a way to map a file to a variable. Any change to this variable will be reflected instantly to the file. It's a fast and elegant way to handle files without using read, close, or write. In our case, that means that we get a variable that is directly mapped to the frame buffer, and any change to this variable will be directly reflected on the frame buffer, and so displayed on screen. Perfect. But there is a small catch. Since the frame buffer is a very low-level interface, we need to write images in it in a very specific format that is dependent on how our screen is configured. Finally, something that was not a problem for my project. Since the Art installation will always use the same screen model, I could get these values and build my code around them. If your frame buffer does not use the same color format than the one used internally by OpenCV, you can convert your images using the convertColor CVT color method provided by OpenCV. By using it while loading my files, now my files are loaded and in the right color format expected by the frame buffer in RAM. Let's play them. Well, let me explain. This code is so fast that our videos are now played faster than they should be. Time for some improvement, but I think we are gapless. Currently, our code is copying frames from RAM to the frame buffer as fast as possible. We need to slow it down a bit. Since we already know the correct frame rate that we got using video capture, we can add a simple delay of 1 divided by the correct FPS to get the correct amount of time that we should wait in seconds between each frames. Yes, we got our perfect playback without gaps when switching between two videos. But wait a minute, we are indeed waiting the correct amount of time. But what happens, for example, if you need to read the state of a sensor and that operation takes some time? We don't want the playback speed to be affected by the rest of our program. A first improvement will be to keep track of how much time the rest of our code is taking and subtract it to the time we are waiting. An even better way will be to create a separate process or thread that only handles video playback. But I was already way over time and my multiprocessing skills are not great. But feel free to make a pull request in the GitHub. Reading my sensor only takes a few milliseconds, so I was able to keep the previous solution. Using the frame buffer like this can create another playback problem. If we are not putting frames in the buffer at the right frequency, we have no guarantee that this buffer will not be read while we are writing to it. This can create screen tearing, a glitch especially visible if your video have a lot of horizontal movement. To solve this problem, there is at least two different solutions. The first one is called page flipping. It means having two different frame buffer, or one double the required size, and writing in one while the other one is being read. That way, you are never writing to a buffer that is being currently read. The Linux API to do that are mainly written in C, and I did not see an easy way to do it in Python. The second solution, and the one that I use, is called vertical synchronization, also known as VSync. It means waiting for when the screen just finished displaying an image to put a new frame in the buffer. That way, both read and write operations are now synchronized. To use vertical synchronization, you make a Linux system kernel call that will make your code pause until the screen just finished displaying the buffer. This is done using IO control, IOCTL. What is IO control? Simply put, it's a messaging system between a program and the kernel based on a list of request code. Finding the right request code was a bit of a mess, since most of the examples I found were written in C. And that's when I had to let go one of my requirements. To use this IO control, you need to be using the old graphics driver. And to do that, you go to a config file that is located on the boot partition and switch from the KMS driver to the fake KMS driver. Depending on the videos you are playing, you might not need vertical synchronization, so feel free to experiment. Maybe you can stay on the newer driver. When you know how expensive an 8GB Raspberry Pi 4 is nowadays, if you manage to find one, having a script that uses that much memory is a bit crazy. A way better solution would be to use a buffer that you fill with a few frames or a few seconds of video, at the cost of a small lag, because if the playback is not lagging behind the buffer, there is no point in having a buffer. You could only preload a few seconds or a few frames of the video instead of loading them entirely in RAM. The project I was working on uses very short video files, so that was not a problem for me, and I was way over time. But I did try to ask ChatGPT for how it might be done, and that was not a good idea. Of course, I would have loved to keep using the new drivers for my project, especially knowing that the frame buffer that I am using is an obsolete interface. It will soon be removed from the Linux kernel. But using the new drivers API is way more complicated than just opening a file. I mostly found some C and C++ example codes, but nothing in Python except from an unstable library. Anyway, if you want to learn more about video acceleration on a Pi 4, there is a complete overview on the Raspberry Pi's forums. I am also adding some PDFs about the new graphics drivers. I think you know what I'm going to say. I was way over time, so I kept what was working. But if you would like to see a video of me trying to port this code for the new graphics drivers, please leave a comment down below. Wow, that was a big project. But before moving on, a few words about some stuff that I did not cover in this video. If you are watching this video a few years after it's been uploaded, maybe the new VLC 4.0 version has been released. It is supposed to include gapless playback. On the official Git repository, there is even a branch dating from 2019 that includes this new feature. If you're willing to compile your own VLC binary, that might be the way to go. As I said previously, VLC is not the recommended player on a Raspberry Pi. So if when you're watching this VLC 4.0 has been released, it's probably your best bet. Since the beginning of this video, some of you are probably wondering, but why didn't you use GStreamer? What is GStreamer? What is GStreamer? You know what? I don't know, and that's why I did not use it. But from what I understood, it's a tool that lets you chain multiple components, including a video file, FFmpeg, or a modern frame buffer, in what is called a pipeline. And since you can tweak these pipelines during playback, it might have been the best way to swap my video files efficiently. But once again, time was running out. Thank you for watching this video that I really did not expect to be that long. I hope you find it interesting, and I really hope that I was able to help at least one of you working on a similar project. That's exactly the video I would have loved to find when I started working on this project a few months ago before going completely insane and way over time. If you have any other idea or solution about something that I could have used to solve this problem and get a better playback, please leave it in the comments. I might do another video implementing the best suggestion that I get. Also, if you want me to make another video going more in depth about one of the topics that I discussed in this video, leave a comment, I might do another video on it. Anyway, that's all for me today. Thank you for watching. Please consider leaving a comment, a thumbs up, or subscribing to this channel. I am still a very small creator, so any interaction means a lot to me and the algorithm. Thank you very much again for watching, and bye bye!